on agenda-related items. Those citizens in attendance that wish to comment on an agenda-related items should come forward, state their name and address, and please limit your comments to 5 minutes. Are there any citizens that wish to speak on agenda-related items? If not, we'll move on to the consent agenda. All agenda items marked with an asterisk are on a consent agenda and considered by the city manager to be routine matters. Prior to approval of the consent agenda, any member of council may have an item from the consent agenda removed and taken up during the regular portion of the meeting. Consent agenda items include approval of minutes, payroll, invoices, notification regarding next work session, and consideration of the annual Victoria and Sleigh Bell Parade Old Christmas Weekend. At this time, council could take action to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Zelinski and a second, Councilmember Grabowski. Is there any discussion? City Clerk, would you please take roll?
Councilmember Cooper. Yes. Councilmember Beaton.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Zelinski.
Yes.
Councilmember Goodspeed.
Yes.
Mayor Smith.
Yes.
Councilmember Grabowski.
Yes.
Councilmember Pontiac.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Thank you. Unfinished business.
Mayor Smith, I just have a question, and I'd like to ask George Saylor this question. I would like to know what the proper procedure is. We've just agreed that we would establish an ad hoc committee
We're going to do that.
for rubbish.
We're going to do that, but we have a motion that was tabled that we still have to deal with.
Fine. Thank you.
Yeah. Unfinished business. Consideration of Ordinance 18-08, amending Chapter 1060, Garbage and Rubbish Collection and Disposal. At their work session in July, council discussed the issue of trash on River Street. A consensus was reached to direct staff to prepare an ordinance amendment to prohibit the use of plastic bags for trash on River Street. Ordinance 18-08 would modify Section 1060.08 to require sealed receptacles or containers in the central business district, establish violations of civil infractions, establish penalties for violations, and repeal all ordinances in conflict with this ordinance. The Council Ordinance Committee met on July 30, 2018 to review the proposed language and recommended that the amendments be forwarded to City Council for consideration. As an ordinance, 2 separate readings are required. If this ordinance is introduced this evening, it could be adopted at the next regular meeting. This item was tabled at the August 21, 2018 council meeting for continued discussion at the September 11, 2018 council work session. There is a motion on the table to introduce Ordinance 18-08, amending Chapter 1060, Garbage and Rubbish Collection and Disposal by modifying Section 1060.08, requiring sealed receptacles or containers in the central business district, establishing violations and penalties. Motion was made by Grabowski, seconded by Cooper.
I would like to recommend that we postpone this if there's a procedural way to do this, since we've just also agreed to establish an ad hoc committee to study it.
The proper process would be to go ahead and vote the motion down and then identify the ad hoc committee in place of it. Is that correct, Mr.?
I certainly would support that as being one of the alternatives for you. I know that there's some interest in establishing an ad hoc committee, and that would seem to be a reasonable way to handle it.
And we don't need a motion to establish the ad hoc committee?
You know, if council directs that, you certainly could have a motion, but I think if, you know, the direction is to the city manager to establish it, I don't know how you have to have a people designated to serve on the committee, and if the city manager is responsible for that, he could do it. If it's going to be council doing it, then I think it probably should be a motion.
Okay. So the process right now would be, we've decided to go with an ad hoc committee from the work session for us to vote yes or no on the ordinance.
I think that keeping the motion out there any longer doesn't make a lot of sense. I'd prefer to see council if the idea is that we're gonna have an ad hoc committee study this to vote the motion, vote your conscience, but if the motion is voted down, then that ad hoc committee can be assigned to study this further.
Okay. So we have a motion and we have a second. Is there any further discussion? If not, City Clerk, would you please take roll?
Councilmember Pontiac.
No.
Councilmember Grabowski.
No.
Mayor Smith.
No.
Councilmember Goodspeed. Mayor Pro Tem Zelinski.
No.
Councilmember Beaton.
No.
Councilmember Cooper.
No.
Motion failed.
Thank you.
Mr. Taylor, excuse me, Mayor, the ad hoc committee is already in process?
I've already contacted some individuals to serve, that agreed to serve on the ad hoc committee, and Cindy, depending on the council's action, if you authorize the establishment of that committee, then she'll work to schedule the first meeting.
And do we need to authorize that now?
I'd like that direction from council.
I'll make the motion to authorize that.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Beaton, a second by Councilmember Cooper. Is there any discussion? City Clerk, would you please take roll?
Councilmember Cooper.
Yes.
Councilmember Beaton.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Zelinski.
Yes.
Councilmember Goodspeed.
Yes.
Mayor Smith.
Yes.
Councilmember Grabowski.
Yes.
Councilmember Pontiac.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Thank you. Item B, consideration of ordinance 18-09, amending chapter 1024 sidewalks. Proposed amendment would add section 1024.06 prohibiting all dogs, bicycles, skateboards, and rollerblades along the Riverwalk, modify the chapter heading, and repeal all ordinances in conflict. The Council Ordinance Committee met on July 30, 2018 to review the proposed language and recommended that the amendments be forwarded to council for consideration. As an ordinance, 2 separate readings are required. If this ordinance is introduced this evening, it could be adopted at the next regular meeting. The motion to introduce this ordinance failed at the August 21, 2018 council meeting. Council requested this item be added to the September 11, 2018 council work session agenda for further discussion. At this time, council could take action to direct staff on how to move forward with the ordinance amendments.
I'll make the motion. Or direct.
Second.
I just have are we in discussion part here now? Are we talking about this, or?
Councilmember Cooper, you say? I have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Zelinski, second by Councilmember Cooper. Discussion.
I just have some questions.
There was some question as to what the motion was. We didn't catch what the motion was.
The motion, we tabled the original motion to prohibit
No, we didn't table that.
Oh, we didn't.
dogs, rollerblades, bicycles,
That one wasn't tabled,
Skateboards.
Mayor.
It failed.
it's in the attachments.
It failed. It actually failed. The original motion failed.
The original motion failed.
Yes, that's what it says. The motion to introduce the ordinance failed,
Okay?
and then you chose to discuss it at the last work session.
Okay?
And you asked us to bring it back.
Action on how to move forward with the ordinance amendments.
So
Mr. S-
what we're looking for, staff is looking for, is some direction from council on how you would like to proceed with this matter?
I would like to go with, when we had the ordinance committee meeting, we came out with the ordinance, no dogs, bicycles, or skateboards, and I'd like to go that way with it. No dogs, period. And skateboards, bicycles, and rollerblades.
Okay, my questions would be, what's the boundaries of the boardwalk? Where does it begin and where does it end?
Well, the west end is roughly Cherry Street, and the east end is just a little bit past the bridge on 31.
Okay, so when you say Cherry Street, when that sidewalk starts at the west end, from the
Right.
sidewalk up to the Lions Pavilion, it's
Right.
not considered the boardwalk?
No, it's not the sidewalk portion of it, Jeff, is that correct statement? Yes.
Okay, well, I can agree with that.
Yeah, okay.
It gives
We'll
people,
go Cherry to all the way to 31 Bridge?
Yeah, just the other side, just east of the 31 bridge.
Basically, House of Flavors.
Well, it goes to the Chamber of Commerce.
Well, okay.
Yeah,
the other would be for you allowed access, people with dogs to access from the marina, from their boats. I think we have other marinas and other slips down through the river that might also have dogs that should they be included in that? Or is it just the city marina?
well, it's been an unwritten rule that those at the city marina that dock there and have dogs can at least cross the river walk and get into the grassy area. And I would, depending on council's action, if you want to continue to not have dogs on the river walk, I would hope that we would extend that same courtesy to other slips adjacent to the river walk.
Just questioning the way it was written in the ordinance. The ordinance just spelled out the city marina. It didn't talk about any other.
And we can make that modification, yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
I'd like to see that modified.
I still think it's fair to have dogs from the east to the end of the marina, the city marina. I think that's, and if that was what the discussion was about, and it's obviously not here in the change.
That's what, yeah, I was kind of confused on that, because that's what I thought the ordinance was going to change to, for having the partial allowance on the.
In the white spot. That's, if you read the ordinance, it says, it says, no dogs, bikes, skateboards, rollerblades permitted along the city riverwalk except in authorized parts and special events approved by the city. This section does not apply to boaters in city marina that may cross the riverwalk with dogs traveling upon their boat. It says nothing about any changes.
We didn't make any changes to the ordinance.
And
from the
that's
last
what I'm
meeting.
saying, but that was the discussion, is that we would open that section. last
There
week.
was discussion, but there was no direction.
Thought we
I-
all say.
I was under the impression there was.
But I
very
didn't
well
get,
discussed.
and again, I didn't get the sense it was the majority of council was looking for that.
No.
Okay.
So that's what we were looking for tonight, is would you like staff to do?
I personally, in the wide area, think it's fine to have a dog, be able to walk your dog on the boardwalk. That way, you're keeping them off you're keeping them out of downtown sidewalks too.
Okay.
Okay, I think before we go any further, I need to clarify, are we actually discussing an ordinance or just having a general conversation? We had a motion on the ordinance and a second, so it was a failed ordinance, it was a failed motion in the last council meeting.
Right, and then
So do
we
we
had
want to
this,
bring it back to a motion on the original and discussion at this point?
well, the first reading failed.
Okay.
So it failed at that point. And at the work session, there was further discussion, and council wanted us to bring it back on this agenda for direction from council on how do we proceed.
Okay.
And so that's what staff is looking for.
If we vote for yes or no, then can we, if it fails, then can we say, okay, this is what we want?
Well, really, I'm not sure what the motion
That's what I'm
was
asking.
at all. Because it was just a motion in support, but I'm not sure if it was a motion to approve the ordinance as it was drafted. Really, probably not a proper motion since we already voted that down, but I guess I defer to Mayor Pro Tem Zelinski as to what the motion was. Was it a motion to approve the ordinance as it was presented?
No.
So do you want to make a motion of what you want it changed to? Can we do that?
My motion would be to direct staff to, isn't that what we're supposed to be doing? I'm sorry, I'm really
That
confused.
was our intent.
That was the intent, but I think direct staff to do what is, I guess, the question then.
Right.
To adopt an ordinance meeting everybody's needs, I don't know. I'm sorry.
We
I'm just-
can draft an ordinance, we just have to know what the needs are of the council and what the council can agree on and provide direction to staff so we can put it in some kind of a written format.
Can he withdraw his motion and someone else can do a motion?
I think even if you didn't want a motion tonight, and you could just go council person by council person and say what you want in that ordinance, and then we could bring it back at the next meeting, is that kind of?
Okay, I think, we can probably simplify the process. How many people want dogs on the Riverwalk in the ordinance?
Can we vote this way? Can we even say that?
Well, I think we're just trying to, it's an open meeting, we're just trying to understand what the majority of
We want
council
no
wants.
Obviously, we know where I stand. The wide area.
I got your
The-
note.
Say the wide area being the city marina, to, I guess now the VFW, or whatever it is, the American Legion. I was thinking it was fair at House Flavors, but, that's still a wide area. That's where the direction I thought we kind of had all directed to. And that was why we voted it down and then had the work session, had it brought up to the work session. So this, then seeing nothing changed, that's my direction,
Yeah, okay, that's fine.
okay?
That's what we need to know.
One,
That's
Dogs
two.
on-
I would agree with that. I want to try it on that partial part of the Riverwalk from the east, where it starts in the east all the way through the city marina, where the wide part is, and it stops when it gets to the other part.
I would
Just
agree.
prohibiting the dogs,
Okay.
and also all across the entire Riverwalk, I would want all the same things prohibited, the bicycles, skateboards, and rollerblades. But the
Councilmember Cooper.
dogs in that limited area are allowed. That would be my preference.
But I just feel that's a long way to go from way down here to way down there
Mhm.
to allow dogs. I mean, I didn't mind what the manager said about letting them cross to the grassy area, but that's gonna be hard for the police to enforce that one. How do you know who's the voter and who's the visitor? Just walk it down.
Councilmember Cooper, you want dogs on the Riverwalk?
No.
Figure it out.
I don't care if it's a wide area or a narrow area. I'm tired of getting pictures on a tab of piles of what.
Okay.
Back to Councilmember Grabowski, what was your preference then, just so I'm clear on that?
I'm not putting dogs down there.
You don't want dogs down there, okay.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Oh, I'm wishy-washy. I'll admit it. I have a dog, I never take it on the boardwalk. But that doesn't mean that other people won't. I guess I went to a few places. I went to Cadillac, I went to Lake City, and I went to places that do allow dogs on their lakeside and walking. I did talk with one officer from Cadillac. They've never had a problem. I guess, except for the mess that they make, I don't know what the problem is. So limited use, yeah, I would go for limited use.
Now, I kind of am confused on things. I'm for having the partial, but I would want mess stations and signs up. So as long as those things are up, then yes, but
I would like it very clear that no dogs beyond this point and that it's enforced.
Okay.
so if we can, so I would be for it.
Yeah, when we would certainly sign it, and we would provide mutt mitts and stations along the way. Just to be clear, our officers will enforce it as they can. It's obviously not going to be their number one priority, but they will enforce it as they can.
As I brought up today in an email to you, would this be a time to address between the pier heads using that area for dogs? That we don't have a policy or anything in place for?
That's council's discretion. As it's my understanding, it's just kind of there's no policies on dogs on the beach, no ordinances that I can find.
Well, I remember in council meeting when that was brought up, and I remember everybody agreeing, and that was the way it was, and that's when the signs went up. So between the pier heads, I'd like to address that, I guess.
It could be a practice, but I couldn't find a council policy, a general policy, or an ordinance on it.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if it's a general policy or a council
It's not.
policy, but it's in the park rules.
Yeah.
And that no dogs are allowed on the beach, and then council voted and approved to make dog-friendly the North Beach access, but also in between the stub pier and the First Street breakwater, and that's appropriately signed as dog-friendly.
So what I'm saying is, should we be addressing that while we're doing this also, or not?
Well, if council wants some, ability to enforce violations, the only way we can do it is through an ordinance.
Because
So-
right now, if there's someone had their dog on the beach, nothing can be done.
It's a rule,
Yeah.
and that's all it is.
I know from experience that when somebody calls in that there's dogs on the beach or that there's concerns, officers will go out there. And from what I know, you can change this, but I know that they'll talk to the dog owners, refer them to the signs that are posted on the beaches, and I don't think they've written tickets for it. It's more of an educational thing.
There's no ordinance.
I'm just throwing it out there. Is it
Well,
something we want to
if
address?
council wants, we can make that part of it, if that's your interest.
I don't think so. We should keep them separate.
I'm opposed to dogs on the Riverwalk. It appears as though we've got 4 people that are in favor of it. But hopefully those 4 will stay the course when we get an ordinance, and we won't waste
We will bring,
time.
we'll bring back an ordinance. I think we can have something by the first meeting in October.
Sure.
Right. We'll bring that for council's consideration.
Thank you. New business, consideration of the purchase of a 3/4-ton pickup truck with regular cab. 2018-2019 motor pool budget includes the purchase of a 3/4-ton pickup truck. The quote was received from Gorno Ford under MIDO contract 4WL-0078 for a F-250 pickup truck, 4x4, regular cab with options in the amount of $30,728. The budgeted amount is $30,000. At this time, council could take action to approve the purchase of an F-250 pickup truck from Gordo Ford Government Fleet Sales in the amount of $30,728.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second that motion.
I have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Zelinski and a second by Councilmember Goodspeed. Is there any discussion?
I'd like to, we're going to sell one of the vehicles?
Yes, each time we make a purchase on a truck, we look for the best place to put it and try to create efficiencies. So this purchase, or this potential purchase, along with the last truck that we purchased in the previous budget, we shifted some trucks around to improve storage, to reduce the amount of trips people make back and forth to the hardware stores. This truck would be placed down at the wastewater treatment plant and used by the service crews there. And then their truck would move into kind of the pool that we use for our seasonal help. And then one of the parks trucks that's in the worst shape would be sold. So my intention is, we are cleaning that truck out right now, removing the radios, and as soon as we get it cleaned up, I would put that for a public bid.
Do you have any idea what we might get for it?
The last one, this one is an F-150. The last F-250 that we bid didn't have a front bumper, had quite a bit of mechanical issues, and we got more than what I thought we would. I think it was like $1,800. So I would say in the $1,200 to maybe $1,600.
Thank you.
That's just a guess. When we've been bidding them locally, we've been getting more than what the trade-in value is.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any further discussion or questions? City Clerk, would you please take roll?
Councilmember Cooper.
Yes.
Councilmember Beeden.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Zelinski.
Yes.
Councilmember Goodspeed.
Yes.
Mayor Smith.
Yes.
Councilmember Grabowski.
Yes.
Councilmember Pontiac.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Thank you. Item B, consideration of an agreement with Manistee County to provide planning and zoning administration services. At their meeting of September 4, 2018, City Council took action to authorize the city manager to work with county officials to develop a contract that would provide planning and zoning administration services to the city by the county planner. The proposed agreement delineates the services that would be provided, includes a 5-year term with a 5-year renewal, and includes a termination clause. The first-year cost of the agreement is $70,000 with an annual cost increase of 2%. The agreement was reviewed and approved by the city attorney. At this time, council could take action to authorize the mayor and city clerk to sign an agreement with Manistee County to provide planning and zoning administration services.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Zelinski, a second by Councilmember Cooper. Is there any discussion?
I don't think it's a good idea. I think this is our planning and zoning. I think we need to have our own here available readily. That's just my words.
Question about the money part. Do we have money in our budget without going to contingency or reserve fund?
We have the, we've had Denise's position is budgeted in this year's budget, and so we'll be able to afford this without any modifications to our budget.
The next question would be, can you tell me a little bit about enforcement? I'm looking at page 39 on the contract where it says enforcement zoning ordinances in cooperation with the City of Manistee Police Department and the city attorney. Could you kind of walk me through that? What part would our city police department be playing in that?
Well, if it's a blight issue, if it's a non-conforming, there's a number of different things like that that they would have to work through.
What is, are we gonna have some kind of, like a 90-day review? Are they gonna be attending council meetings?
They are going to attend council meetings. They're going to attend staff meetings. The council meetings will be more on an as-needed basis. They're going to look at coming to a minimum of 2 staff meetings per month. They're going to be working with the Planning Commission, the Historic District Commission, the Zoning Board of Appeals. They're going to prepare the packages or packets for those. They're going to be available. They're considering having office hours. One of the things that we're looking at is having them log in remotely from their office at the courthouse so they can access our records. So that's how we're looking at it. We don't have specifically a review process, but obviously if we don't like how it's being run, we have that 90-day out.
This is concerning to me because I don't know how they would have enough time to do what they've been doing, let alone adding in our department, and then not have a review of how they're handling it.
Well, again, there's no formal review. I'll be monitoring their activities. They're going to have to staff up their department, and the county is going to be hiring someone to provide further assistance in that office.
And I think this would be a good time now to restructure departments when DDA director is leaving. We don't have a zoning and planning person. They're all somewhat related. I think we might want to think about doing something with that before we contract out.
The DDA director is not really, that and the planning and zoning director are not related, really. They work together on some economic development stuff along with others from the city. That's their basic relationship. But the DDA director doesn't do any planning or zoning.
Right, but I think if you put a little bit of that department and this department, I mean, a couple meetings ago, we were talking about hiring the Chamber of Commerce to do economic development. Like, now is the time to rebuild some of this stuff, but that's my input. I'm just a little concerned about just giving everything else to the county.
And that's fine.
But I think we've been through some of the same issues before. When our building inspector retired, we didn't replace the building inspector. And it was like, the sky's falling here. You know, who's gonna be driving around town, seeing what people are doing and coordinating with the assessor? When the assessor left, we contracted the assessor function. And I think some of the same concerns were out there. Oh my goodness, you know, what are we going to do? I can't remember hearing a complaint from someone about assessing services or accessibility to our contract assessor or getting things done. In each of these transitions, we've maintained service viability and reduced costs to the city. And I think that's one of the things that we have to look at. You know, if we're not impeding service or denying anybody anything, and we can save by coordinating with another agency or they refer to the horizontal collaboration on these issues, I think we should take advantage of some of those opportunities. We can't keep funding everything ourselves with the lack of revenue growth. There is a proposed cost savings in this. It's not really significant, but even with the assessor, we didn't have a significant cost savings. So, go ahead.
I
think there's merit
have a
to it.
question. On the contract on page 39J, it talks about providing monthly written reports for the City of Manistee Planning Commission, the Manistee City Council, and as needed for meetings held, zoning board of appeals and so on. Does that mean we're going to get in our packet an update every month?
That means that they're going to provide written reports for those three, the planning commission and the council and those others. So it's going to be kind of a synopsis of what's going on, kind of highlights.
But only for those things, not for a daily account for what they did for the city? Or weekly? Or
No, that was not intended, no, to have a daily accounting of their activities.
I kind of,
We don't have that same requirement for any of our, other than the police and fire.
It says monthly report, and I don't know what that means when it says monthly report. I mean, it could mean a lot of different things. I don't know what's supposed to be in that monthly report. But I guess what I'm getting at is, we're spending taxpayer dollars, contracting something out. Is it gonna be part of our council packet, this report?
If council wants it, it can be provided. And in terms of a monthly report, I see that as evolving as the county planner becomes more comfortable with our operations and what we want as a council, as a planning commission, as historic district, what they want in a monthly report.
Well, I'm not trying to micromanage. I'm just trying to be a good steward of the taxpayers' dollars. Unless I know what they're doing, I can't do that.
Well, and again, I appreciate that, and we have this, we don't require that of our CFO or our police chief, or, that's my responsibility, is to manage them and make sure that they're performing the functions of their job.
but they work here at the city. I mean, this is a little different when we're contracting out what was at the city. And they have another, I mean, I think we could have even done the assessor, but we didn't, but.
Well, I just feel we're losing too much. I mean, yep, it's a good idea to consolidate. I think we're losing places where we could talk to people, and the money isn't gonna make that much difference, that little bit of what's over, so I don't think that's a good idea.
I think if we could add in, more micromanaging on your part, make sure everything's
Well,
done for the
that's
first
built
90
in.
days.
That's built in. I mean, that's part of it. They have to meet our standards, or we don't continue the contract. We had the similar situation where we used to have the prosecutor do some of our civil infractions and different things like that. We were not happy with the service that was provided, and we terminated that contract. I envision the same thing. We have the same thing with our assessor's contract, that between myself And Ed, we monitor that performance, and we're in contact with them on a regular basis. I see the same thing going on, is having those conversations, what do you got going, where, this, whatever.
I would have liked to have been able to talk to, that department here at the meeting. I think it was Rob Carson.
Rob Carson, yes?
To see his input and how he would handle it, and I'm a little disappointed that he's not here.
Well, he wasn't, I didn't ask him to be here. And that's on me if you expected him to be here. I could have asked him to be here, but I did not.
I feel comfortable with contracting with the county. This is definitely in Rob's wheelhouse. He's certainly very familiar with what's going on in the city because he's right there in the county and they can see what's going on in the city. If we brought in somebody new to replace Denise, and that would take a while for that person to really get on board. Not that they wouldn't be qualified for it, but they wouldn't have the history and the depth that Rob has of how everything works. He does have a better understanding than somebody new that we would hire off the street to fill that position. So I'm pretty comfortable with it.
And one thing I would point out is that Rob did write our current master plan. So he has that understanding.
I think he would do a good job, I'm just saying, and I didn't realize that there was gonna be another person hired. I just, like, it would be too much for one person, but if there's more.
Yeah, that's what I've been told by the county, that they're going to staff up. I don't know exactly when that's gonna happen, but they're gonna staff that up.
They have
to
an
give him
advertisement in
support.
the paper today, so.
I didn't notice it if it was there, yeah.
Will we have any input on the hiring process for this other person, or is?
None, no.
Any further discussion? City Clerk, would you please take roll?
Councilmember Beaton,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Zelinski.
Yes.
Mayor Smith,
Yes.
Councilmember Pontiac,
No.
Councilmember Cooper,
Yes.
Councilmember Goodspeed,
No.
Councilmember Grabowski.
No.
Motion approved.
Thank you. Concerns and comments. A citizen comment. An opportunity for citizens to comment on municipal services, activities, or areas of city involvement. Citizens in attendance shall be recognized by the mayor for comments limited to 5 minutes. Letters submitted to council will not be publicly read. Are there any citizens that wish to make comments?
Bob Grabowski, 4th Street. I think the city is gonna have to take those little signs down on the bridges on all four, on both sides. The signs, I think, are too small. I saw something the other day where the hair on my arms stand up. I was behind the red pickup truck and those 2 kids coming across that bridge heading south on bicycles. The second one speeded up, hit the back tire of the other one. I'll bet you, good thing he was a good bike rider, because he would have went off that edge right in front of that pickup truck. Very close. So I saw him at the light over there stop, and I says, "Don't you kids know how to read signs?" Well, he showed me that he was number 1 in the city, but I thought he was pretty dumb to be number 1. So I think something's gonna have to be done, bigger signage, or put it in Spanish or Arabic or something, so they can read it. They just sailed right across the bridge, heading south.
Thank you. Are there any other citizen comments?
Good evening. Mick Shemansky, 332 5th Street. And as I was listening to the debate about the dogs on the Riverwalk, and I would suggest that perhaps it's time for the city to have a citywide ordinance on dogs and what the responsibility of a dog owner should be and how they're supposed to take care of their dogs. I get it, Mr. Cooper, you know, you're tired of hearing or seeing the pictures of the little gifts left on the sidewalk. Well, it really doesn't matter if that gift is down on the Riverwalk, on River Street or in front of your house, it's not right, right? That's an owner's responsibility of that pet to be able to take care of their animals. So I think part of the issues could be driven or discussed if it was a little broader. For example, you know, I think having the dog-friendly part on the beach is great, but you don't want the dogs in the same areas where you have sunbathers and people swimming. So it makes sense for them to be contained to certain areas. So maybe if we looked at dog ordinance instead of just specifically the dog part, then you could address all of those separate components. This is a place where you don't want dogs because it's not safe, it's too narrow. These are areas where dogs are acceptable. Dog owners are responsible for cleaning up after their animals. Thank you.
Any other comments? If not, we'll move on to officials and staff. City manager.
Only thing is just a reminder to council that I'll be out of the office starting at noon tomorrow, attending the MML annual convention. I probably won't be back in town until sometime Saturday afternoon. So as usual, I'll be available by cell phone, or I'll also be monitoring my emails. If there's something that you need immediate attention, please reach out to Ed Bradford.
City attorney.
Nothing, Your Honor, thank you.
City clerk.
Nothing, Your Honor.
Public safety.
Nothing, Your Honor.
Public works.
Nothing, Your Honor.
You didn't bring the engineer to give us an update.
Try and upstage me or what?
I can give you an update on that if you'd like. Last week we met with, I think Sean talked about that, but last week we met with the district engineers in Cadillac. We've got email correspondence from them that indicates that they've been pleased to work with the city and the engineers through the process of the wet weather corrective action program. And it indicates that we've met all the deadlines. I'm sure Thad can forward that to you if you'd like. They also provided a number of comments on our basis of design submittal, and we've got a direct meeting with representatives from the engineering company and the DEQ staff to go over the modeling process, which will clear up a lot of those specific questions. We'll get them responded. We also have them committed to the review process to be able to turn stuff around timely, and we confirmed some of our some of the process deadlines that will signal the milestone schedules within the permit. So we're in good shape right now. The biggest issue today is we're trying to put in place a purchase agreement for the 10 acres with Morton, and George has been working with their attorneys, and we're getting closer on bringing that agreement to you. Once we have that agreement, we can submit our baseline environmental assessment that's already been completed to the state. Once that gets submitted to the state, then the rural development will then further process our loan application for the phase 2 loan.
We're also applying for grant.
When you apply for that loan, there's a possibility that a portion of that can be converted to a grant. They will never commit to that up front, but they put that through a standard formula, and it looks at the medium household income of the community, and then compares what the average annual payments for sewer services are. And if this project brings it above that threshold, then they will offset, or they can offset it with grant money to bring it so that it doesn't go above that level.
Do we have a completion target date yet?
We have the next large milestone that we have is submitting for permits, and I believe that's in May of 19, where we have to submit our plans and specifications for permit process. I believe the construction is required to begin by July 1st of 2019, and the completion is, I think it's in December of 2020. I'd have to verify that.
That's fine, I just trying to get an idea.
What we did before we met with the DEQ is we put together all these projects and we worked them backwards from the deadlines forward. So we looked at the construction seasons, how long, because really there's 3 different projects that'll be here. One is the headworks and the storage at the plant. One is the conveyance system, which is the new pipeline from SSO 18 to the headworks. And then the third is the pipelining projects that'll go throughout many districts. And so we've lined all those up to make sure that, that we meet the construction seasons, how long it would take to bid that process, how long it would take for us to get permits, and then that backs us into how much design time we've got left. So it's a lot of work, but we're feeling comfortable at this point.
Are we done lining pipes yet, or we got another round to go with lining?
The lining that we did this summer is what we called our pilot project, and that is completed. We actually have a little bit of funds left over when we started balancing out the contract. So tomorrow I'll be signing a change order that indicates that we've got about $26,000 left from the original contract amount. So we're going to advance that into some additional manhole linings, just getting further than what we thought we could. So technically the contract is done, but we're going to have them do a little bit more work in the next few weeks.
This is just a curiosity question. Are we at some point able to measure what all this lining, how it's helped the inflow? Are we able to measure that some way?
Yeah, the stuff that we did this summer probably isn't enough to see a very measurable difference, because though our flow rates are pretty consistent on what the consumption is and it changes by season, the weather is really the biggest indicator of inflow and infiltration. So right now we've got groundwater tables and the lake levels are very high. And like the last, or 2 weeks ago, we had almost 9 inches of rain in a 2-week period. So that contributes a lot to it. When we do the $4.5 million of lining next year, and we also have, we find connections all the time and are working with property owners all the time when we find those. When the construction is completed, we then have to do a system verification. So we will analyze how the system performs after we complete all the projects to what it used to do, and also what we projected that it would happen, and then certify that to the DEQ. Now, we feel very confident in reviewing these numbers with the DEQ that the projects in the way that we're designing and the capacity that we're designing will meet the standards that the state and the EPA have put forward. And engineers will call it the RDS, it's the remedial design storm. So they set a specific set of flows or rainfall that can occur, and we have to make darn sure that we can handle that. We will certify that has happened. And if there's anything else that needs to occur, the completion and the certification is timed for the end of our current NPDES permit. So when that permit expires, the state literally waits a year before they start negotiating the next permit. And so if there's any adjustments or anything else that needs to be done, they've timed it purposely so that they can incorporate that into the next permit cycle. And I want to make it clear, because I've had people ask me, we have not had a violation of our NPDES permit in 20 years. So even though we still have sanitary sewer overflows, and up until a few years ago we had combined sewer overflows, those are all permitted within our state permit that is approved by the EPA, and it's just the way the function of the sewer system is. And each year we're trying to make that better.
Thanks. Bob, the last question would be for Mr. Taylor. Did you receive enough direction? I know I mentioned getting something from from the county. Getting something, the report, the monthly report, is that going to be sent to us? Do you get enough direction on that?
Yeah, I'm going to work through that with Rob, see what we can put together.
Okay.
Councilmember Conlon?
Yeah, I have a question for Public Safety Director constituent that lives on 8th Street that says she got her insurance paid for a call for her husband, and she's still getting a bill. And I told her to throw it away.
You shouldn't be doing it anymore.
I don't know who does the bill, I don't know who does the billing for these guys, but she got a bill.
Can you have a copy of that I might be able to look at?
Yeah, email, I'll find it for you.
Okay.
Thank you, Tim.
Councilmember Beaton?
Well, I think we're blessed to have really great weather this past weekend, and I couldn't take in all the events that we had, but I was very pleased with the Spark program that was put on by the DDA to find viable businesses. I was happy to participate in that at the Ramsdale. I thought that was well run. I was also participating in the Strut Your Mud, which I've done for a long time. It had great weather, and I just really felt like I got a lot of positive feedback from a lot of people this weekend. That's it.
Councilmember Grigsby?
No, nothing.
The city manager, they put those storage bins up by me up on 12th Street.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, there must be going into phase 2. I've talked to the planning commission, some people, they are not in compliance. So I wanna know where I can get the rules. I wanna go there because the grass is growing way up. The gate is up there, but everybody passes the gate up. They can go right around it. They got semis up there constantly, emptying out. They got wood sitting all over the place. I think it's time to clean up this place or get it out of there.
Okay, I will look into that.
Okay. Next thing is, Tim, did we ever get a hold of the DNR on those deer? Because I keep getting yelled at.
Say it again, sorry.
That DNR, you were gonna contact them and
About the deer?
about the deer.
Yes.
I've had some follow-up actually with the USDA here, and they're willing, however, we have to get cooperation from every single landowner. And I've already started that process and starting to I contact the golf course first, because they're the largest place and the most safe place to do it. So it is in the works, we're just sort of working through it slowly. I didn't get any response back from the DNR on it, but the USDA is probably the most logical place to do it, and they said they would, but we have to get full cooperation from everybody.
Can we get a copy of that list that you had on the plate? One of the guys brought it up here one night. They said there was another list. I went out at a concert, and I got 4 people telling me about the blight down in Maxwell Town, you know, the houses and
You're talking about the spreadsheet that we put together? Certainly, yeah.
that'd be nice to have the whole list, so
Yeah.
I'd appreciate that.
Hmm?
Thank you.
Before you sit down, did you get anything, an update for that house fire?
Yes, we talked about it this morning. I talked about it with George this morning, and we know the steps that we're gonna try to take. We're gonna treat it like a blighted house, just to try to get some pressure on them to get moving.
Okay.
All right?
And you can sit down. From Thad, I just want an update on what's happening now with the DDA. What's the plan?
My understanding is that they're leaning toward hiring a new director and trying to find somebody that is already trained in economic development. They might even increase the salary to attract someone that is trained. I did give them some information on someone that might serve as an interim director. I don't know that they're interested in that at this time.
At the DDA meeting, we scheduled a special meeting for the 25th at this point, we don't even have a concrete job description to post for it. So the idea is to look for an interim as opposed to dividing duties up amongst board members, which occurred last time. And there was a lengthy delay between Patrick Kay and hiring Tyler. So it's kind of in limbo. First, we have to have a job description and know what we have available to offer and stuff before we post and start looking for someone.
Description from when you hired Tyler?
There is one, but unfortunately, the executive committee didn't have anything to share with the rest of the board when they came in. They just came in and said, "Would like you to approve for us to post the job." And The next question was, what exactly are we posting? So, there's a separation between events and economic development, which should have happened a long time ago, so.
We had some discussion about the DDA TIF public hearing. Has there been any movement on that at all?
None.
Will that come from staff or will that come from DDA?
We've met with them as a staff, and they wanted to take it to the council level. That's why they had that joint meeting a couple of weeks ago, and that's where it stands.
I thought my understanding is that we were gonna have another meeting and have more of a collaboration of discussion.
Waiting for them to reach out. I mean, I can follow up with them, but they were supposed to go back, polish up what they had, and come back. So I can follow up on that.
Yeah, because I think that we should be very much included on what their next step is, since we are going over plans.
I mean no disrespect, but I think there's a lack of communication because I'm hearing two stories and I don't know which one is true, so.
In what regards?
Well, I'm hearing that it was already, we were supposed to be setting up the public hearing for the TIF plan.
That wasn't my understanding.
Their own public hearing.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm just telling you, I'm hearing different
Yeah.
stories, so I don't know what,
No, they have to, I think I'm correct in saying that they have to hold their own public hearing on a proposed TIF plan, yeah.
Yeah, it is a process the DDA goes through. They hold a public hearing on their TIF plan, and then they bring the TIF plan to city council, so.
And I will say that, while Tyler's been here, the communication has been outstanding. I would talk with him on a daily basis multiple times. I'm going to have to seek out and spend a little bit more time communicating with the DDA board chair, which I'm comfortable with doing.
thank you.
Anything else?
Actually, well, one more thing. I really want to see that the DDA, or at least someone, does the Halloween events. I know that was in the paper saying that that's been canceled, that the DDA usually does, but I want to make sure that it's still going on, because that's a very big thing here for our families. And I heard that the Alps was coming.
Oh, you're talking about booze, beer, and brat?
Yeah.
Yes, the Elks is hosting.
And by the way, you can bring your girls, because we're gonna need lots of volunteers.
Yes, they will need lots of
So we
volunteers.
still have that community-wide event, or is it just certain things?
Well, I think it's like a lot of things. If you change ownership of something, it doesn't necessarily mean it's gonna be the same footprint, or the same event. The DDA had a budget for that. But again, I sat in the last DDA meeting, and part of the motivation, I think, for canceling it is the DDA director wouldn't be there, and they were looking for another $3,000 that was budgeted for that event to put into salary to hire the new director. There's a lot of moving pieces to it.
Okay, I just want to make sure
Yeah,
it's still
so.
happening.
Yeah. Anything else?
No, that's it.
I would just like to mention dogs for a moment. Glenn Zari lives just down the street from Mick Szymanski. 2 times in the last 10 days, in walking his dog down the sidewalk, his dog has been attacked by other dogs. Twice, not just once. One was a sizable dog, and one was kind of one of those rugrat kind of dogs that came running out and wanted to bite something big. And I think he's filed reports on both of those. I saw on Facebook today, over the weekend, someone's large dog attacked a dog that was sitting next to a person at the dog park, of all places. And the people incurred $1,000 of expenses in emergency surgery on the dog. Animals are just that, regardless of how domestic they are unpredictable. I feel badly that we have a venue that is a great place for people to walk, a great place for people to jog, wonderful place to bring children. And now we'll have people that will opt not to use it if we introduce dogs to the area. I just want to throw that out. Again, I would support Councilmember Beaton. The Sparkle event was a wonderfully hosted event, an opportunity to meet 5 people vying for a prize to start a business, and they made a good pitch. It was a good crowd, and I think it was enjoyed by all that was there. A really commendable event. I read an account of one in the paper either today or yesterday, where someone was awarded a $50,000 startup grant from another community.
Ludington, they've done it like 3 years in a row, Jim, so.
So, you know, the $5,000 isn't peanuts. $50,000 is absolutely wonderful. We're on the right track. You know, when you put a competition and you get a lot of people and you boil it down to 5 finalists, we're doing something right. With that, I would thank our citizen members and thank everybody for your attendance tonight. Motion to adjourn.
I have a couple of cards.